So I want to talk today about one of the problems that comes around a lot when we're doing remote work and everyone's asynchronous. So you've got people in different time zones, you've got people communicating, and it's really difficult to get on a call together. Um, and there's a load of stuff we can do to help with asynchronous work. But one of the difficulties that often comes up is making decisions, or at least getting permission for decisions. So if I'm over here in London and I'm like, hey, I want to do something, it's very easy for me to fire off an email or a Slack message to somebody who's in Vancouver saying, hey, I'm thinking of doing this. Like, what do you think? Do you think I should do it? And then they get it, but by that time I've left my laptop, I've stopped work, and so by the time they reply with a question maybe, and then they come back to me, and then I answer that question, we've gone like 3 days before a decision is made. And that's kind of blocked me. And what often happens is that I might start out with some enthusiasm for a particular task or a thing I want to do, and then by asking permission like that, or by asking for people's input like that, I end up losing that enthusiasm because I've gone round and round and round, and it's suddenly 4 days later and other priorities taking over. And this can really kill like fast movement in distributed teams. So one of the things that can help address that, and this does depend on the job, it is, instead of, I guess, asking, what do you think of this idea, is to state your intent. So I do this quite a lot. I've worked with loads of other people who do. I've worked in a couple of companies where this was the norm. And basically that means instead of saying, oh, I'm thinking of doing X, I'll be like, hey, I intend to do X at this time. If I don't hear back from you, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And here's a lengthy description of like what I've thought about and why I'm going to do it. And that's really powerful because it means that all the other person has to do, if they agree with what you're going to do, is just ignore it, and then you'll get on with it by default. And you're then left feeling like you have some agency basically, and you're not being held up by other people, but you have still given other people who might need input plenty of opportunity to jump in. Now, I do this with Slack channels a lot. It's the simplest example I can think of. If there's a Slack channel that I think should be closed, I'll jump in and be like, hey, I intend to close this Slack channel in 3 days' time. And then I set a reminder on Slack, and in 3 days' time, I'll archive the channel. But this works with loads and loads of other stuff as well. And a good reference for this is a book by David Murkhart, I think is how you say his name, called Turn the Ship Around, where he talks a lot about how he applied this in the US Navy. There's also a really good email, which I'll link in the description of this, which talks about a very similar thing, which is what inspired me to make this little recording. So yeah, that's like another way maybe we can stop like decision paralysis type stuff happening in distributed teams.